back in the Maestro, of course, both Jerry and George were obsessing over little petty things that really didn't matter. In the hot tub, Jerry obsesses over something that was really none of his business, but he still took on the opportunity that he could to try to make something right and prevent something that happened apparently 4 years earlier. Pretty much. But of course, like the last episode, George's winking was causing a lot of chaos. In this episode, Kramer's object, well, attraction, if you want to more so say, not object, it's a bigger attraction, is what caused a lot of chaos in this episode. So the story goes, Jerry, Elaine, and George were eating lunch, and of course they were talking to George about his new position, his promotion. He goes, he likes it. He goes, but usually to get people to stop bothering him, he always tries to look annoyed, because he says that when you look annoyed, you come across as you're busy. You're very busy, and to leave me alone, basically, which is a tactic he thinks is going to help work. People will take him more seriously with his job with the Yankees. Elaine, meanwhile, is struggling at work. She has to come up with something for some Himalayas walking shoes or something like that. But she has writer's block, and she's not come up with a good advertisement that she could put in the J. Petering catalog. So she has writer's block. Then she remembers also that she is having a friend who she met while working at Pendant, who was a marathon runner, Jean-Paul, crashing at her place. He's coming in from Trinidad and Tobago, where if it was called, if I mispronounced, I apologized, and he to run the New York Marathon. The problem is what gets Jerry concerned is that he remembers that Jean-Paul, the name of the runner, of course, I said, was known as the guy who had slept through his alarm 4 years ago and missed the marathon. So, of course, Jerry's freaking out. He's like, that's a big responsibility, Elaine. You don't want it to make it happen again. And Elaine's like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. While they were there, though, she sees a friend of Elaine's who lives right across the hall from her in her building, pushing a stroller with a baby. And Jerry, I think her name was Diane, I think it was. And Jerry said he didn't know that she was married. And then Elaine says, don't say anything, but her husband left her, basically. But she said, don't say anything. Which, of course, leads to a domino effect later on. So back at the office, George is working, but he sees a fly. There's a fly buzzing around. And he's swatting at the fly, trying to kill it. But Mr. Wilhelm sees him, and he thinks that George is cracking under the pressure of his promotion. So he continues to keep an eye on him, and George still has a couple of more unfortunate events where he kind of is still, he's really just just joking around or just trying to, he's completely fine, but the way he's acting, him acting all annoyed and whatnot, to make people think he's busy is leading the Wilhelm to think that he's under a lot of stress. So he tells George, he gave him a different assignment. He has some people from the Houston Astros coming in. They're talking to the Yankees about interleague play. Which, fun fact, interleague play apparently didn't start until 1997. And that's when, of course, the Houston Astros were still a National League team. They moved to the American League in 2013. And George hangs out with them, and there's these guys, and they're literally saying, bastard and son of a bitch after every, few words. So George finds it pretty cool, and he starts basically saying it all, too. Well, of course, they then have lunch with Jean-Paul as well, which Jerry finds out the reason why. It wasn't because of the AM and PM mix-up. It wasn't the snooze. It was the fact that he just turned the volume down on the alarm instead of the radio by mistake, which was what caused him to sleep through his alarm. So, of course, Jerry, though, is still obsessing over Jean-Paul, making sure he doesn't wake up late for the race again. Basically, just keeps accusing of Elaine of not being able to do it. But also, George was talking about his night with the Astros team with the management from the Astros, and he starts saying my son of a bitch and bastard. And John Paul was enjoying that talk as well. He starts saying the same exact stuff just for the fun of it. Well, here's of course where all the chaos starts to ensure. As Elaine also still deals with this writer's block as well, which is what Jerry thinks also is distracting her. Kramer had bought a hot tub from a friend. And the first night he had the hot tub in the episode, he stayed in there for a long time, but I guess he kept it too hot for too long that the heat pump broke. And he had fallen asleep in the hot tub, and when the heat pump broke, it dropped the temperature of the hot tub all the way down to like 58 degrees. So Kramer, of course, was bundling up, drinking very hot coffee, trying to warm up his body temperature again, and he had to get a new heat pump for his hot tub. John Paul had later, of course, returned to Elaine's apartment, but when he saw the baby, just coming off of the momentum of talking with George about sons of bitches and bastards, he starts calling the baby a little bastard, which the lady flips out about, and the tenant was around, and he kicks John Paul out of the building. Elaine, of course, though, unfortunately, does not know that. So then John Paul calls Jerry, and they set up to have John Paul stay at a hotel. Jerry stayed with him. He set the alarm, make sure there was no glitches on it. He even called a wake-up service guy, but Jerry, being a little, obsessive and, like pushy on the guy, he thinks he pissed off the wake-up call guy, and they weren't going to actually do anything. So instead, they go back to his apartment. George, meanwhile, though, he was talking on the phone with the guys he met from the Astros, and he started saying the same stuff. And whenever George was just being funny and, aggressively, saying SOB and bastard and whatnot, Wilhelm catches him, and he basically tells Steinbrenner that George is cracking under the pressure. Which he has a meeting with George, and he talks George into going to the hot tub with him. And at the end of the episode, George and Steinbrenner in the hot tub, and just having a typical conversation they have in the office. And basically, Lee Bear is basically doing the same thing while sitting in the hot tub, which is pretty funny. Elaine, though, didn't know that John Paul got kicked out of the building, and whenever Elaine ran into her friend, he asked her friend, ran to her friend, and she said one of Elaine's friends was calling her baby a little bastard. Elaine thought it was Jerry because of the whole stuff recently with the rabbi telling everybody everything, and Jerry, she thought that Jerry stopped by and did, but didn't realize it was John Paul. But she went on the street wandering around for hours trying to find John Paul. But as she's walking, she came up. She was just thinking in her head out loud, and then she finally, thought of a good blurb to put in the catalog she's been having writer's block about for those Himalaya shoes. She accomplishes that, but she doesn't find John Paul. But of course, she must have found out what happened. But because of the commotion, Jerry went, and John Paul went back to Jerry's apartment. He was gonna have John Paul sleep on his couch, and they set the alarm for like 6:50, I think it was. Can't remember what time it was. But Kramer, who claims he doesn't have an alarm clock, has like a mental alarm he claims he sets, so he set his as well. Well, Kramer had just gotten a new heat pump, and it was like the strongest heat pump you can have for a hot tub. Well, because of how strong it was, around 4 o'clock that morning, at 4:02 a.m., the heat pump blew a fuse and took out the power in the whole building, which caused them to sleep until 8:47. So, of course, Jerry freaked out, woke up Jean Paul, and, of course, Kramer admitted that, his heat pump, took out the power in the building, and everybody's freaking out. Of course, Elaine must have known at this point of, what happened to Jean Paul. But they get down to the race, and John Paul makes it just in time. And then right before, of course, the last scene with, the hot tub and with George and Steinbrenner, they're watching runners, and Jean Paul is coming by. But of course, it's slow-mo, and everybody's holding out like their cups for Jean Paul to take a water. Well, of all people, like the 20-1 shot or whatnot, with all those cups, Jean Paul could have easily grabbed one and got a drink of water. He mistakenly grabs Kramer's cup. Kramer had a thermos and some really hot coffee. Obviously, because, he fell asleep in the tub again when his heat pump blew a fuse, and he needed to, give himself some warmer body temperature. And, of course, you hear Jean Paul just scream because I'm pretty sure, I'm a former runner, of course, but I'm pretty sure it's not the best thing when you're running and, you're conditioned for running, and then you try to drink very hot coffee while running. I'm still pretty sure that is not pleasant at all. But yeah, that's the hot tub episode. This time it was Kramer's hot tub that just caused a lot of commotion. The heat pump breaking, then the even stronger heat pump just take out the pressure. At least Elaine got out of her writer's block, though, and, George is liking his job, but his plan to, have people not bother him so much with him acting like he's annoyed, unfortunately, backfired. But, yeah, that's the hot tub, guys. We're on to the next episode, which is a classic. It's one of the best. And all I can say is, no soup for you! Come back 1 year! I can't wait to talk about that episode. That episode is next on these Seinfeld reviews. So, guys, that's my thoughts on the hot tub episode. What were your thoughts on the hot tub episode? Would you have gone out of your way for Jean Paul like Jerry did, trying to make sure he makes the race on time? Have you ever gotten writer's block before? And do you as well have a hot tub? If you do, I'm quite jealous of you, because I would love a hot tub as well. Maybe someday, though. But as always, guys, please just make sure to slap a like on the video. Subscribe for more content to my channel. Follow me on Twitter at DemandAirBuyingThings. Always make sure to leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. And with that, guys, I'm checking out. I got one more video doing tonight, which is, of course, the next classic we will talk about for sure, as it's definitely one of the best-known episodes in the series. What is that? You'll find out next. Until then, guys, no review for you. Come back 2 minutes.